You know? I think a real good way to demonstrate this is gonna be to get weird with an air hose. What's up, everybody? Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and today we're going to be going over another heavily requested topic. I've got a completely stacked day today with lessons and writing and filming and all sorts of stuff, but I wanted to get this quick video out because it's a really important topic. I want to demystify it. I want to make it a little bit more easy to understand. So we are going to be talking about breath compression, or just compression for short. Real quick though, I'd like to give a huge shout out and thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring and supporting this video. DistroKid is a digital music distribution service. It's awesome. Kardashev, my main band, and Neverbreath, my side project, we kind of wanted to switch distribution services for reasons that are unimportant. Part of the reason that we've done this is because with DistroKid, you don't have to pay per release. You don't have to pay a ton of money each time you have a release, or even per track, right? So you pay a flat yearly fee and you can release pretty much whatever you want. And as you can see from this form here, which can vary a little bit depending on your level of subscription, you can put it pretty much anywhere. I mean, heck, you could put your music on TikTok if you want. Like, if that's something you want to do, you can do it. We're excited because it's going to go pretty much everywhere. And that was kind of a reason we wanted to switch too. You know, we felt like the money that we were spending with other companies wasn't going as far as we wanted it to. With DistroKid, they do things like upload your lyrics to pretty much everywhere. They've got a vault where if you lose your own tracks, you can download them, so all of your files and audio is backed up. And then finally, one reason I'm really excited about it is because we had some problems in the past with music not being released on the day that it was supposed to. You know that stress, I know that stress. We're not gonna have that problem with DistroKid. Plus, I mean, look at this cute little gremlin. That's their logo. I'm a sucker for goblins and gremlins. He's cute. I don't know. Anyways, DistroKid is awesome. Kardashev and Neverbreath are moving over to it. Check it out. Make your own decision, of course. Make sure that it's gonna work for you. But I'm pretty confident y'all are gonna like it. If you do want to check it out, which you absolutely should, there is a link in the description below that will get you 7% off your first year subscription. So if it seems like it's going to work for your band, which I'm pretty sure it will, check it out, save some coin, get releasing. Okay, so let's get into compression. What is it? One thing that I have found over the years is that compression, the definition can change depending on who you're talking to, what context you're in, and what you're searching. One great example is if you search vocal compression or voice compression, you're probably going to find something called dynamic range compression. That's not really going to matter for us, unless of course you're tracking your own vocals, then it might be important, but it's essentially the way that an audio engineer or an audio producer would take the loudest parts of an audio track and the quietest parts of an audio track and smush them together. There's more to it than that, but it doesn't matter to us. Next, what you might find if you Google breath compression is certain websites saying breath compression is bad. And honestly, based on the way they're describing and defining breath compression, I would agree, it's bad. Don't do these things. They're basically describing it as taking a huge deep breath, closing off your vocal folds entirely, and then singing through that closed, resisting, tense vocal fold closure structure. Hear how tense and hard to control that is? Yeah, don't do that. So what I'd like you to do is wash your brain. Wash your brain. That sounds too much like brainwash. Let's try again. Clean your slate. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. Let's define what compression is going to mean for us. Compression, for our purposes, is going to mean the method of narrowing the airstream to generate a stronger airflow to help us create distortion and manage our breath efficiently. Okay, cool, Mark. That's great. Thanks a lot. That's helpful. What does that mean? I know, it's a bunch of words put together without a whole lot of context, so let's spend the rest of the video giving examples and explaining it. Bring in the air hose. So this is one of the areas where having sleep apnea is actually kind of beneficial to me because I have this tool here to help demonstrate breath compression, or compression in general. Mostly sleep apnea absolutely sucks, but it's helpful today. So this hose is going to represent our trachea, our airway, and it kind of has a trachea look to it. If you've ever seen a trachea in a diagram, or at like a cadaver lab, if you were taking an anatomy class or something like that, it looks kinda trachea-ish, sorta. Use your imagination here. And this represents the soft tissues of the soft palate, aka the velum, the oropharynx, the laryngopharynx, all that good stuff. Right now, our airstream is doing this. And it's weak. It's not very strong. Sure, I could go over to this machine that this air hose is hooked up to and turn up the pressure, but then, if that's the human body, we're going to run out of air. There's going to be air just flowing out of our bodies way too quickly. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take the opening and we're going to narrow it to generate more air pressure, right? Let's kind of see how this works, because I went through all this trouble of finding the plant and the air hose, so we're going to do it. All right, so we have our completely uncompressed, super breathy airflow right here, and now we're going to compress it. Oh, look at that. We got more airstream hitting our soft palate, making it shake around and causing a distorted sound. So, okay, so that's all well and good, but how do we actually do that in here? Well, there are two methods I'm sure you have heard of, and they are false chord and vocal fry, or fry screams. That's right, those two terms that we hear all the time, they're basically talking about primarily the method by which we compress the airflow. Right? We'll start with an example of singing, and then we'll move through the others. So generally speaking, you can think of an uncompressed airflow as being very breathy, like this. And a compressed airflow, a compressed voice, especially for singing, sounding more like this. So let's start compressed and then move to uncompressed so you can kind of hear the change. You hear how it changes depending on how much air I'm letting through, how much I'm relaxing and removing the impediment of that airflow? So, if we're talking about vocal fry or fry screams, one of the reasons that people may gravitate towards this style is it's kind of inherently compressed. To do it properly, you have to compress, right? There's a level of finesse that you have because you're taking the vocal folds, you're holding them together at just the right amount to allow a thin stream of air to come through. And there are a ton of videos about it, but essentially the bass sound is something like this. Now that's not a full fry scream, but as you can hear, you could do that for pretty much ever. You could do that for a really long time. False chord's a little bit different because there are different levels of compression that we can have through. Not necessarily saying you can't do that with a fry scream, but a fry scream requires that consistent level of engagement in the vocal folds. Whereas with false chord, we can have shades. We can put it on a spectrum, right? So for example, a lot of the metal that we hear on this channel is a bunch of lows. We'll get some highs going on here soon. We had some recently, but lows are really easy to demonstrate it with, right? So an uncompressed low would sound a little bit like this. Neat. A compressed low would sound a little bit more like this. Delicious. Now I want to make a quick aside here. With false chord vocals, there are certain sounds that you can make where a less compressed structure, less compression in the false chords themselves actually makes it sound really cool, especially with highs. So I really want you to not equate this as bad and good. Don't put it on like a spectrum of right and wrong. Just think of it as simply less compression, more compression. Here's the key. Here is the way to think of compression so that you don't get confused and that so you understand what to change if you don't like the sound that you have. Compression is not one action. It is multiple actions in balance. So here's an example, right? If I don't have enough compression, we'll use a different vocal here now, but if I don't have enough compression, if there's too much air coming through, it's going to sound like this. Ran out of air pretty quick on that one. But then again, if it's too compressed, if there's too much constriction, if I'm overly resisting that airflow, it's going to sound like this. And I'm going to stop right there because I could already feel a little bit of strain happening. And you heard what it's like, so I'm cutting that done. So what that means is we have to have a balance of our diaphragm pushing up on our lungs, moving air through, and then an adequate amount of resistance from the false cords closing over the opening of the airway to create the resistance that we need to get a sound like this. Much better. So I know that seems like a lot to think about at one time, kind of a game of this, but with 10 arms or something. But just think of it as balance. Balance between the air coming out and the closure of the false cords over the top. So if your screams are too breathy, bring the false cords together a little bit more. Now I want to say that bringing the false cords together is a situation where a little bit goes a very, very, very long way. So these changes in the engagement of your false cords, the vestibular folds, they're not going to be like drastic, boom, shutting things closed, right? So for example, when I go from a point of non-compression to compression, I don't feel a whole lot going on. This is where daily continual practice in safe increments is going to be the key to getting the control down in the vestibular folds. So you heard the compression engage, but it didn't sound very strong, right? That's where the balance comes in. More air is needed. And again. So just to review, compression is the method of narrowing the airflow to generate more distortion and manage our breath efficiently, and the act of compressing is a balance between providing air from the lungs using the diaphragm and resisting the airflow by using either the false cords, which are the vestibular folds, the true cords for the sake of fry screams, or the true cords for the sake of singing cleanly. Compression and mastering compression, especially in metal vocals, is admittedly a little bit more advanced, so if you watch this video and you don't master it right away, actually, if you watch this video and master it right away, I'm gonna be impressed. Like, that's pretty damn good. But don't expect to watch this video and master it in a day. However, if you practice and you practice safely and you practice daily, this is something that over time, you will find that you're better at. It's like anything, really. Practicing sweeping on a guitar. You have to try to sweep on the guitar hundreds and hundreds of times before you get it to where it's muscle memory. This is the same way. You will get there, but as always, please, if you feel any pain, stop, take the rest of the day off, and start again the next day. There's no use rushing it. And that's going to be it for today's video. I really appreciate it. Again, shout out to DistroKid for sponsoring it. We are super excited to release our music through DistroKid. And again, if you want to check it out, try the link below. Discount on your first year. It's awesome. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Is the method of narrowing the airstream to... What we're talking about is the method of compressive...